The metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform, attracting developers, designers, marketers, social networks, and loads of investments. And sure, there's a lot to explore in this space, but there's also lots of substance, insight, development, and exciting trends. Curated by two metaverse futurists, Adi and Tazar, this podcast series brings on Web3 specialists from around the globe who break down the biggest developments and bring on the most interesting insights for our collective future. You will now be entering a metaverse experience. Welcome to the Metacast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Metacast. We're back with another episode and it's building up the hype. We're seeing a good amount of conversations out there. We have the new Oculus out and there's so many conversations are happening around in the metaverse, in the physical world, everywhere we go. Thumbs up. So today we have Nav Sangameswaran with us. And hey Nav, thank you so much for joining us today. There's going to be so much insight. Nav is the co-founder and also handling product and growth at Metaphy Labs. Could you explain to us about, what's been on and to share everything with the people out there?
Hey Adi, hey Taza.
Hey.
Glad to be here and thanks for having me. So Metaphy Labs is building the Metaverse For Commerce, right? So what we're trying to do is, democratize commerce inside the Metaverse itself in an open and decentralized way. So we, in a nutshell, we are building the Shopify of Metaverse, right? And what it means is today, most brands, they actually have to go to, third-party platforms like Roblox or Decentraland and Sandbox to create their own Metaverse experiences and actually sell in there. What we believe the future would be is that all brands, like they have their own websites, they'll also have their own metaverse worlds, which are their own channels, and they'll be selling and engaging with their customers through that first-party channel itself. And we are building the kind of infrastructure and the platform that would support creating something like that in a few clicks rather than having to spend millions and millions as people are spending today. Right? That's what we're doing. We are an early stage startup. We just got funded, and we are building the future, if I may.
Building the future, it is.
Sounds
I mean,
interesting.
Metaverse commerce is like Web3 commerce is something which is really brings a lot of curiosity in terms of how people are going to see the future of engaging with. And now this is an excellent conversation to start off with. What do you feel after that?
I think like immersive experiences provide a whole new way to engage with consumers. These traditional promotional ways that brands have used in the Web2 space no longer are applicable. So I'm so curious to just pick your brain now and understand where do you think this space is heading from a commerce perspective, from a general perspective. Nav, how do you see the metaverse unfolding for businesses across the landscape? I'm curious to just hear your perspective on it.
Right. I think I'll break it into two sections, right? Let's actually talk about how the metaverse is unfolding now, and then we'll see what that means for businesses. Right? So the metaverse, unlike the internet, which in its early days was open and decentralized endeavor, the metaverse is actually starting off more as a closed and a centralized piece of tech, right? So you see a lot of people, a lot of platforms that are built and they have a huge engagement, and they are closed walled gardens, right? So they don't really talk to one another. For example, Roblox doesn't talk to Horizon or doesn't talk to, say, Zepeto or any of those platforms out there. Of course, you do have some open and decentralized platforms like Decentraland and Sandbox, but even those, while they do actually have some level of decentralization, they don't interoperate with each other. Now, it sort of presents a few sort of problems in terms of realizing the real potential of the metaverse itself. Right? So what happens is, like in Web2, pretty much all brands are having to, sort of go and sell on these different platforms as concentrated or, sort of closed room activities. Right? They can't sort of just create a virtual product in one place and sort of move it around different platforms, or even if they actually end up selling it in these platforms, people can't take it around, right? So what is sold in a platform is sort of locked in that place itself. So that sort of presents a lot of problems. And really, what this has to grow into is something that isn't changed by what Web2 is right now, which is being too platformized and centralized, right? So what's happening in that front? We do have a lot of standards organizations that have come up, which are starting to define, these new standards and all. Hopefully, all existing platforms adopt them. But I really see a future where once these standards are in place, there will be a movement that would come from the ground up, more like a grassroots movement, which would start building out that open metaverse that we all have been promised and are looking for, right? And then it sort of opens up a lot of opportunities for brands in terms of really going out there and allowing users to engage in that engage in a lot of things, but also commerce, and realize that value and potential that you cannot actually realize in a Web2 platform. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's an amazing perspective out there. Now, all the fact that we came across. I came across a meme from Julian, who was one of our first or second speakers. That when someone says the metaverse is Web3 and the Web3 is the metaverse, some people are like, yeah, it's the same thing. And when it comes to metaverse, it's like, oh yeah, it's different. There's so much confusion around this space as well. So now you said you're involved with Metacommerce, and then there's Web3 as well. What do you think is the difference, in terms of these two elements?
So I would like the metaverse and Web3 to be the same, but today it is not, right? So Web3 has its own sort of guiding principles, right? It's about decentralized identity. It is about being able to sort of unlock a lot of decentralized value, whereas the metaverse is more about immersive and social experiences, right? Now, a lot of Web3 type commerce is happening in the metaverse, or Web3 activity is happening in the metaverse, but that doesn't actually make those two the same, right? So for a lot of metaverse companies, Web3 is a technology choice, right? And where they choose them, they actually become open and decentralized. So there is that potential. But from a company or a business's sense, it doesn't always make a lot of business sense to just be open and decentralized, right? It's a choice they make. So when Web3 commerce is really related to buying and selling NFTs and crypto, right? Where you take a piece of digital content, you wrap it up as an NFT, and you sort of buy and sell that. So that is really what Web3 commerce is about. Whereas Metaverse is completely different, right? You could actually also sell physical and virtual goods, and they don't necessarily have to be wrapped up as an NFT, right? That's a big difference. And I think the main thing about the Metaverse is the immersiveness and the social aspect of that commerce itself, right? So if you think about what you do in real life, shopping is a social activity, right? At least consumer shopping is a social activity. So you go out to a mall or a store or the high street. You actually do that with friends and family, right? You just don't go by yourself and engage in shopping. Now, metaverse commerce really enables that in a digital medium, right? So it takes the best of both of say physical retail and e-commerce and digital retail, and it brings it together in such a way that you get the benefits of both. The efficiency and the speed of purchase in e-commerce can be combined with the social and immersive nature of physical commerce. And I think it just opens up a lot of new possibilities. I think that's what metaverse commerce is about.
That's interesting. That's so interesting. Can you give me some examples of how brands are experimenting in meta commerce that you've seen sort of gain traction, become successful at this early stage? There's a lot of metaverse platforms like you mentioned, Decentraland, Roblox, etc. What are brands doing that are sort of consumers are paying attention. Hang on, that's quite innovative. That's quite creative. I want to be a part of that, even if it's a temporary movement. What are you seeing in this space?
So I think it's people are following different strategies, or brands are following different strategies. You do have some brands which are creating, say, physical versions of something, of a dress, right? For example, Zara, what they have is a new collection which has a virtual equivalent to a physical good, and they are two separate entities, right? You can go and buy the physical, say, shirt or a jumper separately on the Zara website, and you can go and buy the virtual version of that in Zepeto, right? So that is one strategy that a lot of brands are following. In some cases, brands are wrapping it up into a phygital offering where you go and buy a NFT of a sweatshirt, then you actually also get a physical version of that delivered to you. So that's something they do. Separately, you do have certain brands that are, sort of, they create these virtual stores, like Bloomingdale. Bloomingdale did last month, where you can go and you can see products and you can, sort of click and buy stuff, right? So that is just like a virtual version of e-commerce website. And then you have Gucci and others who are creating sort of experiences in Roblox and whatnot. So you do have a lot of different strategies that are being sort of played out, but you don't have somebody who has actually thought about that experience end to end in its real sort of fashion, if I may. Either people are looking at selling NFTs or they are looking at creating immersive experiences. And in some cases, they're bringing it together. But nobody's actually looking at Metaverse as a platform where you could actually create that social experience and improve that level of conversion and engagement by allowing people to come together and have that conversation about what they're buying and then buy it using not just cryptos but also normal fiat currencies, right? I think that's what will soon start coming up, I believe, and to an extent, that's what we're trying to promote through what we're doing in Metaphy.
Definitely, and I completely agree with you. Now, of course, like I think there's been so many conversations around NFTs, crypto spaces. You've seen Walmart coming in with their whole platform on Roblox, which was a big conversation out there, and a lot of people on LinkedIn share about it. Um, yeah, but there is a rising conversation around how does the consumer journey, how is it defined in the metaverse in terms
Yeah,
of how they are onboarded, how they're interacting with brands. We have the platforms, we have the experiences, but the journey has to be put in, and that's where I think when you say something like Shopify or
yeah,
Metaphy is already working on something like this for now. So the good part is we can see that there's a drive towards understanding how consumers will really go through the process to convert,
yeah,
and that's such a amazing element that's that builds a lot of possibilities for marketers, for product designers, for everyone who's involved in the field. And Nav, I think kudos to you. I think you're finding out so many answers within this field where people like us have questions. People like us
yeah.
think who probably will be the right person to speak to, and I think you're with us today, so you're in good hands. So
Great. Yeah,
so
I now I have a small question. I think the other week there was an article saying the metaverse is dead, and essentially the number of users entering this space is at the bare minimum. So like platforms like Decentraland are not seeing massive active users on a daily basis. Why
yeah.
do you think that is? What's Decentraland is such a hyped up proto metaverse with amazing potential, but why is not as many users entering this space on a daily basis? I just want to pick your brain. Why do you think that is? I think there could be you could approach it from so many different avenues. But I just want to hear your perspective on it.
So I think nobody knows what the metaverse is, right? Let's start with that. Let's level set, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, Decentraland is a decentralized metaverse world, right? So they're one of the many models that exist today. So if you define a metaverse as an immersive social world where people can go and create content and create and sort of engage in sort of social and commercial activities, then you do have, I mean, you could also say Roblox is a metaverse platform. Same with Zepeto and Horizon and all of them, right? They are closed, of course, and they are centralized. But the notion of the metaverse, as we said, is not, Web3, right? Web3 is a principle and a movement that happens parallelly and in a way has influence on the metaverse. So now Decentraland and Sandbox, they have been around for much less time than some of these other platforms like Roblox and others out there. And so there is going to they may need some time to catch up. So, and also I think as more and more experiences get created there, more and more people go and start building out that network effect, they may they may actually become a little more populated and more engaging, if I may. But equally, you have these other sort of worlds that are being built out as well, right? Like the other side from the whole BAYC sort of community. So and Yuga Labs, right? So that sort of presents new sort of avenues for the metaverse to develop in different ways. So the metaverse is dead, really. The hype around the metaverse is what is dead. I think the metaverse as a concept is still being defined. I'm sure it's going to take 5 to 7 years for people to sort of come to a real understanding of what the metaverse is based on how developments happen. And I think it's at that point we will really start, coming up with a common sort of definition of what really we all mean by the metaverse and what it should be. Right today, nobody can say what it should be simply because of all the experimentation that's going on, all the different models that are being put together. So yeah, let's see. I think like I said, the metaverse, the hype around it is dead, and it's going to take 5 to 6 years for us to actually come up or understand the emergent models and then decide this is actually what the metaverse is.
Exactly.
I agree, Nav. I read a Gartner report and it said the metaverse will have mass adoption and a better understanding by 2030. So that you're bang on within that timeline.
Definitely. And also, I think this was very recently mentioned in a podcast that I heard from Bloomberg Insights. And they said this amazing thing that we have grown in an era where there were first internet companies, that we had web companies, then we were at mobile companies. Probably in the future, we're saying something like a metaverse company. And Metaphy is, I think now you would probably have that title as well, because it's gonna be in the future that we're gonna see a progression in the way people build themselves and identify themselves in the market. Nav, I wanted to understand a perspective from you. What is the route to adoption when it comes to a space like this? What do you think people should know?
I think the experiences have to feel very much like what Web2 does right now, at least the onboarding into this whole the metaverse space, right? I think this is where these closed and centralized platforms are doing a great job because they are indexing on, sort of building out those fantastic experiences for people to come in and participate there, but also create there. So that I think is very important. On the other hand, I think AR is also a bridge into the metaverse, right? I think it's quite likely that people would adopt AR first, get used to it, and get comfortable with it, and then move on to the metaverse, be it on your laptop or mobile or even VR headsets. So yeah, I think good experiences, then AR, and then metaverse. That's probably the way I see it developing.
That would be a
AR
good
is a
perspective.
massive underdog, isn't it?
Yes.
I genuinely think AR is a massive underdog. Underdog. I can't even say the
You know
word.
what, Taza? I wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was with my cousin, a couple of days back, and we opened Snapchat, and one of the filters, an AI filter, had all the shoes from JD Sports, and
Wow.
it was so amazing. This guy tried on the shoe. Probably within the next 24 hours, he actually placed an order on Amazon to get the real product.
Wow.
So it's like a trial effect. You can take a picture, but of course you want to have the product. You've experienced it. So Nav, as you rightly mentioned, there's so many amazing ways for acquisition, and I think people it's great when we have conversations like this where we can define what could be the route to adoptions. Taza, back to you. What do you think about that?
Have you seen the new Oculus, the new headset? How it's merged the physical and digital world simultaneously? I've seen small like promotional videos on it in the last few days, and honestly, it's blown my mind away. Um, it's quite expensive at this point in time for me to get, or for the average consumer to get. But honestly, what's happening in this space in terms of technology development, it's at 100 miles per hour, and every day, week by week, day by day, the space is evolving. So like it's I'm it's just I don't know. It's just buckle up, I guess. The space is there's a lot to learn. Nav, I just wanted to ask, what is Metaphy doing um, that brands could benefit from at this point in time?
Yeah, I think let me touch on the previous question and then go into this one. I think there's a natural ramp into this. So, the metaverse today is a place to be, right? So you go there, you are there with friends. Of course, you can play a few games and all of that. But what it really has to become is a place to do, right? And that is where things that we're doing right now, which is we are having a chat. It's like a meeting, right? Again, you'll have to engage in commerce, right? You may have to be doing things that have a real life impact, right? So that's when the metaverse will become more and more mainstream. And the point here is that rather than it just being a platform for entertainment today, it really has to become a platform for doing business or uh, doing work and engaging in commerce and many other things, right? So a lot of those use cases and applications have to be sort of developed and found out. Like you need to have those killer use cases. And we think one of those killer use cases is that the commerce element. So the moment you sort of create this platform where any business, like today on Spatial, you can go and spin up a space and have a live event. We really want to create a similar experience on commerce, right? So you really should, if you go to Metaphy, you would be able to sort of spin up a world in a matter of a few seconds, choose a template, and you'll be able to either integrate your existing commerce platform, be it Shopify or WooCommerce or anything, or you may be able to use our own e-commerce engine to then create a virtual storefront, right? And once you've done that, you'd be able to sort of launch that store live in a matter of minutes and hours rather than taking days and months as it is today. So I think that's the first thing. So once you do that, you then allow your customers to actually come together with their friends and family and sort of engage in that social commerce. And by doing that, what you're really doing is increasing the traffic, right? So where on e-commerce you just have one person coming and checking out stuff, you immediately have 4 or 5 people coming to your store and engaging in that commerce aspect. And when that happens, you're going to have longer engagement, right? So more time spent on your channel. And the third thing is that this also leads to a level of sort of impulse buying, right? So you go, then there is this primary person who's going to buy something. By nature of accompanying that person, others are exposed to your products and services, and they may actually end up also buying. So you sort of increase the kind of the business that happens through this one single engagement. So I think we are all about being giving you this option to go and create these stores in a matter of seconds and make sure that it is connected to your existing commerce journeys rather than create new journeys which are disjoint. And that is something I think brands will benefit from.
Definitely. And I think there's also scientific proof. Like there's research that says that immersion and social interaction have a direct correlation and and a significant relationship with brand engagement, which it can increase value, because we're talking about co-creation, we're talking about collaboration, and if you see engagement behaviors like word of mouth and feedback, that's so much in place when you're talking about meta commerce. And
100%. And
honestly, Nav,
the
sorry, please go
potential is
ahead.
amazing. Sorry, I'm cutting across. The potential is amazing. So today, you see a lot of influencer selling that is happening on social media platforms or on YouTube and all, right? So where you have certain influencers, they go to a store, they sort of give you that store walkthrough experience and all of that. So just take that and export it to the metaverse, right? It could actually be a live experience. The influencer could take all their followers into a store and engage with them in live, in real time, within that store itself, right? Think about how much of a kind of interest that would generate for brands. So all that will actually become possible with what we're trying to do.
Definitely. And since you mentioned that, I think I recently came across a post on LinkedIn where Ready Player Me did one of the sessions in spatial, and they had a bunch of users who literally walked in a collective, and they were being escorted by one of the people from Ready Player Me. I was shocked. I was like, people do this in the real world, and it's actually happening in a amazing pace, really smooth pace in a metaverse reality. Oh,
Exactly.
Nav, I'm so excited. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's Nav, I'm curious, what proto metaverse platforms can brands engage with you on? What sort of um so like are you on? Can brands reach you through Roblox? Can brands reach you through Decentraland? Can they engage with your startup and sort of build a presence within these platforms? I'm just curious, what platforms are you starting to see experiment on and see a bit of some of the clients you have at the
Integration
moment?
with, right? I think
Exactly.
I get your
Integrations,
question.
yes.
So today, I think what we are mainly about is actually allowing these platforms to create their own worlds, right? It's not about them. It's actually giving them that choice and freedom to have their own channels rather than be shoehorned into these platforms channels, right? So what brands would end up doing is actually creating their own spaces. Like I said, it's very similar. The experience is going to be very similar to spatial, where you will have your own virtual space where you would be able to sell without really being constrained by the platform policies and the kind of experience policies of these different third-party platforms like Roblox, etc., or any of them. Right? So I think that is the core of what we're doing. But of course, we want to be interoperable and open, right? So I think eventually we'll be connecting into all these different platforms and making sure that all the products that you're sort of creating here can be pushed into those platforms as well. Very similar to how today, if you sort of have a store in Shopify, you will be able to sort of connect with, say, a Facebook store or any other like Instagram store and all of that, and sort of push your products into that and enable selling there as well, right? I think eventually we'll get there. But today, I think it is mainly about giving brands their own space and which they control, in terms of look and feel and fidelity and what customers do in there. I think that's really what we are about.
Exactly. And also, Taza, one more thing I wanted to, put across. Nav, you've used the amazing word out there, which has been driving a lot of conversation itself, which is interoperability. The good part about this thing is that when people, it's like brands will be available on different spaces, their own spaces itself. But if you can narrow down to the customer journey and define it in a way which is seamless for brands within the metaverse itself, it's gonna create more conversations and it's gonna create more engagement, because it's like how we do it in Web2 spaces. The customer journey. How you're supposed to drive the consumer. It's more organized. I think once brands like Metaphy will be involved, we will start to, probably see more interactions because consumers know what they're supposed to do. And
Exactly.
if that
I think
question can be answered, honestly, there's a lot of conversation around interoperability being implemented to integrate metaverses. I think it's about more than just integrating a metaverse. It's about the journey itself, that you create an integrated system that allows the journey to be seamless than a user being onboarded and confused about what are they supposed to do on a platform like Roblox and something like on Decentraland, which could be completely different from each other. That's one thing that's, because it's ease on the consumer at the end of the day. You're supposed to make that the best experience ever, and that's what Shopify also does.
experience is king. Yeah, experience is king.
I mean, like I said, I'm trying to relate, but honestly, now I as a person who's trying to get to know your brand more, I think it's amazing that I'm having these thoughts, because maybe I will be a consumer tomorrow, and I would expect an organized journey for myself, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it can't be technology led, right? As any good product, it has to be user and customer led, and that's really the core of what we're trying to do.
Definitely, that's fine. I mean, amazing stuff out there. And Taza, honestly, the thing is, I think what Nav is bringing to the whole picture is that I think I'm seeing a good future. I'm honestly seeing it out there. And in terms of commerce, I had this question for a while. I have been pondering about, as a digital marketer, I've been pondering about how will I, solve the customer's, experience, for how it's going to be organized. Because that's the question I think a lot of people have been having, and that's where we're seeing, a side of zombie metaverses, zombie lands, and articles coming out. I think it's going to be solved. I think it's definitely going to be solved. Nav, I'm going to be looking at you day and night now. Trust me. Amazing.
Definitely. Awesome.
Definitely. And Nav, I think thank you so much for joining for this session. It was super insightful. I think people will have more conversations with you. They will be inspired, and they will eventually talk about this. Not if today, but maybe in the coming months, not even years, because the curiosity is growing so fast. We're seeing it happen right away, Taza. I mean, from the last sessions 100%. As well. And what we're coming up with, it's massive. It's just as hosts, we're curious to the level where you're like, okay, know our stuff before we get on this.
100%. And it's changing so fast, right? It's very hard to keep up. I'm sure what you're doing here is a great endeavor in bringing together people and trying to educate others, right? So I'm really happy to have been part of this. And my message to my other listeners out here is, if you're an e-commerce business and you're really keen to get on this metaverse journey, do visit our website on metaphy.world and sign up to be part of our beta list. And you could be one of those first 100 businesses that opens their store on Metaphy.
Awesome. And what we'll do now is also the fact that this whole episode will have all the links that you want to share. So people will reach out to you, and people will have conversations. Trust me, I do want that to happen so hard. It's just it's just a matter of time. We're just excited. We're just excited. That's like
honestly, it's just a matter of time. I think having this passion for this space will pay dividends in the months and years to come. We have to think about the macro, and I try and think of it like a marathon. But just staying disciplined and consistent, and trying to understand this space as much as you can at this stage. Honestly, everyone will reap the rewards further down the line, and your business model really does make sense. It's just a matter of time when mass adoption comes into play and people start experimenting with your startup. So I'm very excited for what the space has to offer.
And now probably we'll also have you as an avatar sitting right next to us. And maybe Horizon Worlds, and maybe Horizon Worlds will give us a couple of pints as well to use.
Oh, baby.
You never know. We'll have legs by then, Adi. Hopefully
yes. They are coming soon.
They are. They are.
I wanna show my excitement by kicking my legs on the table. Honestly, I would love to do that, but great. So now, thank you so much for joining in, man. Like I said, the links are right below the video. There's gonna be so much conversation out there within the metaverse, within Metacommerce, and everything that you want, people. We have the best in the world right here with us, and so it will be available on Spotify as audio versions if you are on the move and you can't see us as avatars. But yeah, thank you so much for joining in, guys. We'll be back with another episode next week. Nav, once again, you gave us the right amount of insight, honestly. So
thanks, Adi and Taza. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great. We'll see you around next week, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers.